Welcome to the Dream Big Summit, Creating a Better Life for Yourself and the Planet with an amazing, iconic Tantra teacher, Margot Anand, probably the only iconic teacher on the planet. She is the oldest alive standing teacher, still teaching the art of Tantra, and has been known for selling 1 million copies, now mind you, that's a big number, of her books such as The Art of Sexual Ecstasy, The Art of Sexual Magic, and a number of other books. And we will be introducing her new book that she has now written as a summary of all of her combined knowledge, called Love, Sex, and Awakening, Finding God in Bed. Now, I am super excited to have Margot here. We decided to have her screen share her website, and because she'll have some videos to share with us. And she's talking to us today from the Living Light community in Bali, Ubud, Bali. And here you see her on the screen right now. You see me in the little screen there. You see her on the big screen. She's screen sharing. And that is Margot Anand. Thank you very, very much for joining us, Margot, from Bali. And you will be sharing with us a lot of your accumulated wisdom of creating awakening plus sexuality, and the two combined is such a juicy subject that I'm so grateful to have you here today. Thank you for joining us, Margot.
Thank you very much for having me, Ilona, and I really appreciate the work you're doing and how you're meeting so many wonderful people, and you just intelligently just pluck into the crowd of your friends to pick out, you know, the ones you love and the talented ones and present them to the world. It's wonderful.
Yes, and we are so lucky to know you and to be friends as well. And I want to be sharing how people can access greater. Oh yeah, let us see this. Yeah, show us and talk about anything that you think, first of all, is important for us. That is you in your younger years. Now, of course, you have gotten on in your years. That's why you've been teaching for the last 27, 30 years. You have a whole network of teachers, the Sky Dancing Institute, all over the world, and you still travel to teach. Now, I want to know, what is it that you help people discover? And how can we glean some information from you today that we can take home and practice? I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, the answer is like this. The first time I made love when I was 17 and a half, I had a cosmic experience, and I went into the pure light of the universe, no boundaries, and did not belong to any school, family, influence, language, culture. I was free. I was the light.
But you did that while making love, right?
Yes, that was my first orgasm as a virgin.
As a virgin, you didn't even have a penetration yet.
I was a virgin. I was in love. I was a virgin, and the first orgasm was disappearing into the light.
Wow, the
and
dream.
So obviously, I thought there's something to this sex thing, and sex opened the door to spirituality. And this is how I went around the world to research all the teachings of sacred sexuality in all the different traditions. And I was a psychologist trained at the Sorbonne. So eventually, after hanging out with most incredible masters all over and having the most wonderful partners, I must say, kudos to the men who accompanied me, I created this method called the Love and Ecstasy Training. And in the process, it was downloaded to me the access to a very ancient knowledge called Sky Dancing Tantra, which was discovered by Buddha Padmasambhava and Yeshe Tsogyal in the 8th century Tibet. And this is the way to navigate in such a way that your sexuality becomes a way to fly in the sky together.
Yes. Yes.
And my book, this current book, Love, Sex, and Awakening, tells the amazing adventures through which all the little pieces and the little secrets of this particular method were downloaded to me in different parts of the world at different moments. And I discovered it and made a method out of it. So this, in a nutshell, is what my books are teaching. How you can be as you are, Monsieur et Madame Tout le Monde, Mr. and Mrs. Everyday, you know, the Joneses next door. And you can go and navigate all the way to a mystical experience. And that's what my books and my teachings and my trainings are all about. That's what everybody wants, really.
And you know what? I love that so much because a lot of the books do focus on position and the stimulating parts, not considering so much the ecstatic union of whatever we may call soul or God that takes us into another dimension, which becomes a spiritual journey. It's tell us about, uh, how can we get there? What can we start doing at home or in our partnerships? Is there some things that you can share with us where we can get started bringing consciousness into sexuality?
Well, I always say that the way to start is to create a sacred space in which there's going to be no interruption and no disturbance. Many of us do not understand that when we come into a moment of love, we actually don't pay attention to the so important factor of transitions.
Mm.
So we bring in all the luggage from the previous moment into the next moment, and our brain is very crowded with all the worries of the day and the kids and the school and the job. And whereas creating a sacred space is basically clearing the floor, turning off the contraptions and the internet and everything else, actually turning it off and take the watches away and have nobody interrupting you, and then make a little ritual of salutation, of heart salutation, of bowing to each other and saying, I honor you as an aspect of myself. And so then you're willing to be fully 100% present with each other in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and to move beyond the blah blah of everyday life.
So you don't start out with, how do I rub you? How do I touch you? But rather you create stillness or quiet space.
Yes, that's it.
Mm.
And, everybody's asking me your question. And, I have to laugh. I mean, I wrote 6 books. The art of love is a very intricate affair.
Yes.
And the first thing in it is the willingness, the willingness to connect your sex with your heart and your heart with your spirit. Okay? The willingness to understand that you need to penetrate in the gap between the thoughts, because being present means dropping the past and dropping the future. And so not many people are willing and able to do that. And that's a prerequisite to enter Tantra,
Can people glean methods and techniques from your books of how to get that, how to step into that stillness or into breath, connecting to sex, to heart, to God? Do you have steps in your books that people can follow?
Well, I start the last as the first. And bizarrely, my collection of books would be, like that. I'd say, before you get into all the technique, which has a boring side to it, I'd say, read a book of totally exciting and delightful adventures that's a page turner. Read Love, Sex, and Awakening, How I Found God in Bed.
Can you scroll to your headline, to that? Can you scroll to the book cover for us for a moment? Further down. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. That's the cover. Yeah. Okay.
And then, find out how to awaken the guru between your legs. Find out, how I, as a pioneer in this field, discovered that in the most unusual circumstances. Yeah. And this is so exciting. I've had hundreds and hundreds of people writing and saying, oh, I would have never thought that Tantra could be discovered this way. And oh, I want to have a sex life like this. And oh, of course, I understand the importance of healing and sexual healing. So start with the adventures, have fun, read the stories. They will introduce you to what is Sky Dancing Tantra, which is probably, the Tantra teaching that has the highest reputation on the Western world today.
Yeah.
So that's my advice. Don't start techniques. You're going to get bored. Once you've read that book, which has techniques, every adventure is followed by what did I learn? And then a technique that is easy and simple. Okay. So that book is for people that are beginners, that are advanced, that are, and then after that, go to the art of sexual ecstasy.
Okay.
And that's my advice.
Awesome. Okay. So this is available everywhere. I mean, easiest, of course, is Amazon.com. Love, sex, and awakening for all the people who are just listening. Not everybody will be seeing our beautiful screen here by Margot Anand. It's Margot, Anand. Because you're from France, they say Margot. Margot. That's where your beautiful accent is from as well. At least part of your ancestry comes from France. So your book has been translated, has been internationally recognized. You're traveling. Obviously, I mean, and I want to ask you, you did the LSD research with Timothy Leary, right? If I remember that right?
Yes, I did.
Yes. So naturally, I mean, personally, I have to admit, I'm a great proponent of doing it without any substance. However, since we have you as an expert here, what can you tell us about consciously reaching into those realms, which is what you've cultivated throughout your life now through meditative techniques, reaching into heightened states of awareness versus catapulting yourself there with assistance like LSD, for example, and any wisdom you might want to share from that perspective?
Well, we don't need LSD if we master Tantra, because we have psychedelic substances being produced by our brain during the moment of orgasm. Yes. And I describe exactly all these substances, dopamine, and many of these substances I describe in my book. So if you know how to make love, it goes like this. Instead of having a 10-minute event, very short-lived, you master the 3 keys to orgasmic power, which are the breath, a certain type of orgasmic breath, the kind of breath that you have when you have an orgasm, deep breathing through the mouth, not slowed down breathing to the nose that goes with yoga. And then to that, you add the movement that comes in the body when you do deep breathing. And to that, you actually add the voice, the kind of sounds that give a color to your energy. And when you have mastered the understanding of how to magnify your experience, the next step would be to pluck the electrical discharge or energy that happens at the moment of pleasure and to channel it through your central channel, which I call the inner flute, and to move it through your belly and your solar plexus, which has to do with power, and your heart, which has to do with self-love and love of the other, and your throat, which is the voice, and your third eye, which is spaciousness, and your crown, which is one with all that is. And when you move your orgasmic power, your orgasmic vibration through all these stages, then you have transformed your orgasm into a state of expanded blissful consciousness, and you're one with the divine. Yes. And this is what Skydancing Tantra is all about.
Awesome.
So, there is no need for substances. I long stopped to take any substances, but I did try them all because I'm a pioneer and I need to do an honest research on everything there is available to figure out, what is the nature of this orgasmic energy.
And that was back in the 70s or whenever that was anyhow. Yeah. So yeah, of course, you were at the top of all the major researches and universities. And of course, you'd be in the middle of all the luminaries.
I actually I took my first trip with a guide recommended by Timothy Leary. And I tell the story of this adventure in my book, yes. Love, Sex, and Awakening. And then that was an amazing story. In which the guy actually took advantage, and I found myself with this guy, me sitting in the Buddha Yabyum position on his lap, and this guy having his appendage inside of me. And and because I was tripping, it didn't particularly create a trauma. But at the moment, I realized, as I was in the middle of my journey, well, this is a guy who came to dinner uninvited. What shall I do? And I closed my eyes and I had a vision. Hold this. I had a vision of an aquarium that was my pelvis with a fish swimming in it that was his penis. Okay. And now he was a fish with gills floating around my aquarium. And I closed my eyes again. And now came all these different fishes, long ones, short ones, swimming in my aquariums, in my vision. Okay. I was high on acid.
Right.
And then I burst out laughing. I cracked up, and cracking up is like an orgasm in itself. So you start to shake. I started to shake. And the fish, Mr. Guide's fish, was sliding out of my aquarium. And I opened my eyes, and he looked very kind of gêné. He didn't know what to do with himself. So we saluted each other, and he went back to his room behind in the back of the apartment. He was not supposed to leave that place.
Ouch.
So I thought, well, if this is my first tantric experience,
It's got to
but
get better.
no, but luckily the beginning of the experience was extraordinary. And so I went back to that, and it was actually very good to see the high and the low of it. And
Okay.
because I was tripping, everything was fine, you
And
know.
I'm just getting this flash that maybe the part that needed to be cracked or let go of was the sense of being violated, and just letting go of it and laughing yourself silly over it and going, and there he just disappeared anyways. You didn't have to fight or scream or shout. He just kind of probably felt, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Because
could,
there was no guilt. There was
yeah,
no guilt.
yes,
You're very innocent when you're doing a journey like this. I mean,
yeah,
for me, there was total innocence. It was just
yes,
looking at what is in the moment and what do I do with this. But there
okay,
was no judgment. There was no mental projection. And then, funnily enough, I ended up at the Woodstock Festival not so long after. You
okay.
know? Yeah, and
So yeah, let me just back up a little bit here, because I think it's the gem of all gems. Your description, love, sex, and awakening, and bringing finding God in bed. It's like, okay, so we're taking this flute. So let's say somebody starts feeling like, it's happening, it's going to happen, it's building up, and there's this orgasmic space. Now, mind you, of course you've worked with breath hopefully before then and connected deeply with your heart. But let's just say this is the moment. So you're saying, okay, now what do I do? With my awareness, do I use my breath to pull this up through the flute, or how do I get this orgasm
yeah,
to
then you
climb?
practice something which I've called sexual breathing.
Okay,
And sexual breathing is basically the ability to feel like you're pulling the pleasure. By the way, this applies to men and women. Okay,
okay,
you have the ability to pull the sensations which are felt like a little, how would I say, chatouiller. You're basically tickled. Okay, so it's a
mm-hmm,
tickle, and
mm-hmm.
you pull this sexual energy, you pull this electrical tickle, and you pull it up through your sex. You inhale it to your heart, you inhale it to your crown, and then you exhale it back down through your central channel, through your chakras. When you pull it up, you tighten your sexual muscles, and you go very slow and conscious. And then when you let it go down, you totally relax your sexual muscles, and you visualize the energy sliding down and going up your sex towards your partner. And so, just based on that simple practice, there's so many things you can do. You can invert the breath. You can exchange breath with your partner in a kiss. You can open your central channel, and you can create a kind of as they call it, a circle, a
Yes,
circular
mm-hmm.
movement of the sexual energy to the breath, and the breath back down the inner flute of the partner, back to the sexual energy, and you can circulate the orgasmic power this way.
Cool.
Now,
So I pull it up, let's say, within myself. I turn it towards God. There, my partner picks it up and pulls it in through his flute, back through his, in my case, heterosexual choice, penis, and
yeah.
comes back out at me, and has sort of like the circular putting God into the circuitry is
Yeah, you
one
can
of them.
actually go
One.
to Margot Anand on YouTube and do the latest series in which I explain all that
Okay.
with my partner, Dr. Kornilak. And
Okay.
so, that will give you a lot of explanation. And you can also go to my website, to the place. Let's see if we can find it here, my books.
Okay, there they are. Let's see. The Art of Sexual Magic, The Art of Sexual Ecstasy, the Sexual Ecstasy
Yeah, so
Workbook.
the workbook is if you begin, is the one you should actually get,
Mm,
because it's a little workbook that takes you really step by step. It's wonderful.
gorgeous
And
pictures, covers, awesome. Like
so
Klim.
then if you want to have nice tantric stories, you go to the blogs, and then Margot's Treasures. Here we go. So in
Oh,
Margot's
yes.
Treasures,
Mm,
you will click in there, and you will see a film, a 4.5 hour film of teaching about all the different steps that you can do with your partner in what we're talking about. We show it. I have 60 students that have volunteered, and it's a wonderful film, and it's online. But you have to subscribe to this. There is a code that you have to
okay,
buy.
so is it a membership thing where people can get updated material continuously or something like that? Or
They basically at this point they subscribe to Treasures, but they get the code. They go to
okay,
Treasures, They open it up, they subscribe, and then they have a certain amount of time, I think a month, to go to the entire library, to
Okay.
listen to my talks with Deepak Chopra about sexual magic, to
Awesome.
listen to, what is sexual magic and what can I do to practice with my partner and how do I create a sacred space. It's all there in
Awesome.
audio and in film.
Awesome. Awesome. So really, I mean, and that's why I wanted you to be here on the show, to reach out to these hundreds of thousands of people, that we can spread this word even farther and wider, because sexuality is in such need these days to be uplifted. And everybody still, the new generation, everybody needs to know. And pioneers like you have been doing it based on even teachings of centuries, like 8th century teachings of your sky dancing, being continued in this lifetime here as the modern day version. Yes.
And
So
it's very important to do that, because sexuality, the powers that be, meaning the religions and the priests and the state, and everybody wants to harness this wild energy of awakening and wants to control it, hence the guilt and the bad rap and everything else, whereas actually it needs to be freed. We are living in we need to swim against the anti-ecstatic current that we live in. Okay.
Yes.
And so it's possible. And my precious listeners, I advise you not to listen to the bad rap that is given around sexuality, but rather to cultivate your amazing potential to be an orgasmic being, not only in your sexuality, but in your life, and sexuality can open the door to that. And the love and ecstasy training, which happens over a year, 1 week and then 4 months off, you practice, and then another week and then 4 months off and you practice. And I worked all my life to fill these trainings, and now they're overfull and we have to refuse people. And I'm growling again, because, for instance, I'm going to teach a training with the famous John Perkins,
awesome.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman, who teaches about shamanism. So we teach a training, the mastery course about shamanism and tantra. And we can't close the group. We have so many people who want to come from all over the world. Because because I have been saying, knowing John very well and having read his books, that the teachings of the shamans are very, very close to the teachings of Tantra, you see? And they're all about healing.
Yes.
So people want to know, how does a tantric ceremony match and get enhanced by, an Achuar, or a Mayan ceremony, or a fire purification ceremony, such as the ones we're going to do with John.
Awesome.
So I like to open the door, in my tantric field, to a lot of other visions and perspectives, not just to stay stuck with just one method and one book, So I think that if people get interested, as I was, in the potential of sexual orgasm, it takes time, it takes study, it takes exploration. And first and foremost, it's very important to realize not to go to just any teacher that your neighbor and their wife told you was a great teacher. You need to do your research. You need to understand that the teacher, it's a very deep thing to be a teacher of Tantra. You need to find someone with integrity, with much experience. You need to read what books they wrote. You need to talk to people whose lives have truly been changed, by what they learn from this person. So, so that you don't get messed up by the wrong information. You need to remember that sometimes the best teachers are the most discreet ones. Nobody knows about them. They're the truly enlightened ones. They don't care about marketing, And so the best marketers are the ones that are out there that everybody's talking about. It doesn't have to be a contradiction. Marketing is to serve good information. But unfortunately, it also serves, bad people, or at least people that are sort of semi-demi charlatans, And so That's it.
Yeah, and you're so right, because in any realm we will have people who serve the ego and people who serve the higher force, and that's why I've picked you, and I want to promote you. And you know, you're like, look, I'm in Bali right now, but however, I'm so glad that you came on despite all our you know, the internet and all that kind of issues we have to deal with, but it's working out really well today. And I want to point out is that you have so much resource and knowledge, and now that you've gone through all of this for the last 30 some years, reading your last book first brings actually more life and more humanness into the whole picture, rather than just technique. You said people can go into the heart and the essence of awakening through your life stories and come to the greater spiritual understanding that you've come to now. I want to go into the second part about how to create sexual union, maybe even without necessarily getting clothing off. I know that you've studied with an amazing teacher in the last couple of years and have experienced ecstatic states of union of consciousness that can be reached with the body and with sex, but we can also reach these with another without sex. So let's go into the second portion of our interview for the All Access Pass people, into maybe some specifics, again, deeper into nuggets you might want to share with us, but also into how you can do this in everyday life without taking your clothing off. So is there something more that you would like to share? Actually, I want to share something very important. Above here, you see the button, the free offer. This is available for anybody coming to see this show. Please be sure to click on it and connect to the gifts that are coming from Margot, and then sign up through her to receive those gifts. We are still in the process of negotiating that, because time-wise, we're doing a little time jump right now. By the time you click on this button, everything is said and done. So click on that, and then also further down below, we will have the sales button and point to the books, to Amazon, and wherever you can buy them. So you have the resource right here on this page, on the sales button right below as well.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, if you click on Amazon, you'll get some wonderful reviews about my book that was bumped up to 5-star because of the reviews.
Awesome.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, including John Perkins, you know, this is how we got to teach together, because we were in Costa Rica and he read the book in 1 week. He couldn't stop. Yes. Then he gave me a great review on Amazon, and he said, hey, I want to teach with you so that we can actually learn about these practices.
Yes. And I love how you say it's basically Tantra is a form of teaching of consciousness, emerging consciousness and body, that's come from the East, or from us in this recent time. We know it from the East. And John Perkins representing the shamanic, the more Western shaman approach. And they all lead us into the multidimensional universe, which is the paradigm shift we are all about. All of us listening are probably one way or the other shifting into an understanding that you are way more than your body, that you are soul.
And you're such a good teacher of that, love. You just constantly, you know, turn things around into the positive. You're much better at this than I am. I tend to be much more drawn into the drama thing. Being a good Tantrika, you know, I tend to kind of like bumble my way around and have lots of adventures. I usually always fall back to my positive feet, but you know.
I love that about you. No, I mean, you know what I adore about you, and this is on a personal note, I've watched you, and I would say if there's anybody that embodies aliveness, it is you, and our good friends who we hang around with in Ubud, where is, I think, the a hot seat bed for luminaries. You know, what you do to stay young. Can you maybe take us through those techniques in this next segment, because we're running out of time on this one, but I'd love to know. I mean, you truly are an embodiment.
Okay, well, let me tell you one. Let me tell you one that is so simple.
Yes.
Okay, and that will serve you well, and that you can use in every circumstances of your life. And that's actually the one that I have used and has helped me tremendously.
Okay.
You know that in the classical ancient Hindu traditions, everybody talks about mantras. Om Shiva, Shiva, Namaya, Shiva, and so on and so forth. Yeah. This is supposed to put you in a particular energetic mood and, awaken the virtues of your character,
Okay.
equanimity and peace and trust and so on, joy and so and love and so on. Now, I took this and I said, well, we're Western people and we need to have that at all time as a guideline for our mind, because sometimes in sex and in love, the mind becomes the enemy because it keeps trying to distract you from your track. And your track is pleasure and feeling and being one with your partner in the movements of your bodies and your spirits.
Right.
And so the mind comes in and says, oh, well, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm tired. Or the mind says, oh, well, I forgot to turn the oven off in the kitchen. Or, oh, well, blah, blah. You know what I mean, right?
Mm-mm.
So how do you navigate through this particular propensity, which becomes extremely strong when it gets to sex? That is the place where all the bad mental habits come back. All the sabotage that we have assimilated over the years, all the messages from father and mother, everything to prevent us from, taking off and having a good time for as long as possible. Okay?
Yes.
So what I tell people is take a sheet of paper and a pencil and write down, explore your personal mantra. Very simple, okay? What would be the phrase that you can tell yourself that is going to lead you straight to your orgasmic potential? And so that is a phrase that you can keep on a little card in your wallet when you travel, that you can keep when you're queuing up at the bank, that you can learn by heart and tell yourself. And it has to be said in this following manner. In the present tense, starting with I, and only positive and very short, because that phrase is actually connected to your inner child. And it's connected to your subconscious, which actually, assimilates things in a certain way. That is the way. So the phrase that I used, and you will write this down, but you will explore it. You will write many phrases until you find the right one. But the phrase that I used was very simple. I am an orgasmic woman. Now, there have been moments when I was with my boyfriend, especially in the beginning, my current relationship, there have been moments where I was, bringing back up the father. Okay, so I was projecting the father. I was going my mind. I don't like this about him, and I don't like that about him. And I was slowly but surely sabotaging the intimacy experience that he was wanting to start. So I saw myself sinking down and going into negative, and the desire was gone, and the energy wasn't moving. It happens to all of us.
Right.
So now I have my phrase. And I'm going, I am an orgasmic woman. And I'm being reminded that if I breathe, move, and use my voice, and if I just be totally present with him, forget the past, forget the future, forget the thoughts, I'm going to navigate to a place where we're going to have fun. Cool. And this is how I was able to actually connect with a man that I loved very much with my soul and my spirit, but where I had a harder time, taking off as far as my physical body and sexuality was concerned. This is how I was able to navigate. My simple little mantra. I am an orgasmic woman, reminding me the path of success.
Awesome. You are a wealth of information, and I'm thanking you for the jewel that you've shared so far. I love your aliveness, and I want to pick a couple more nuggets in the next segment about how you manage to be on in your age and be so alive, and what is it that you do, and how do you do it, and how do you dare to be who you are? That's so awesome. I am an orgasmic woman. And then repeat that and feel it. Feel it as I say it, and come back from my trips of my mind into the moment.
I am an orgasmic woman, an orgasmic man. And so a man could say, so you breathe, you move, you use your voice. Okay. Yes. And then a man could find another one, could say, well, I am potent and loving. I am a potent and loving man. I am present and potent. I have the power and the love. Right?
Gorgeous.
I am a potent and powerful man. I am a potent and powerful lover.
Mm.
So
I feel just even by running those words through my mind and repeating them as though I was saying them, all cells inside of me, and I'm making myself open to that, of course, all cells inside of me start picking up on what is that? I am potent, I am a loving, I am a capable, I am a lover. It almost like the mirroring effect in our mind when we say a word mirrors itself in our cellular body, cellular movements. So we evoke, kind of much like positive affirmation, but when you use feeling and breath with it, you pump it as a potential blueprint into your body, right? So you pre-create.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I love that. I feel it, and I love you, and I thank you for being here. And I'm going to jump into the second segment of the interview right here in that video below for all the people who've bought the All Access Pass. So let's dive into how to stay young and how to have sex without clothing off. All right. Thank you very much.
I just told you. I
know.
was the second segment.
No. We're going into the segment where I'm going to drill deeper. But that was good. We can do that. And I love that you gave everybody a very beautiful mantra to take home and practice. So thank you, Margot. Thank you for being here. And for everybody else, see me in the All Access Pass below in the video. Everybody else, I'll see you again on another video. Thank you for coming and making a difference in your life.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye.